Hello, my name is Jason and welcome back to I Have a Story. Today's video I'm going to talk about, well, first I'd like to ask people to like my video, share my channel and help me get heard and grow, and please subscribe. Today I'm going to talk about the problems I've seen with our medical industry. I have been in it extensively as a patient, as uh, a student, and having known many people in the medical industry and having seen what goes on firsthand. And as a patient, I am extensive 14 years of extensive medical procedures, testing, dealing with it all. So one of the first things I want to touch base on, and there's several here. I'm going to try and keep this short. This is probably going to be a pretty lengthy video because there's so much wrong with our medical industry, and I don't understand because this is so easy to see so much of it is, but yet we can't do anything about this. So one of the first things I want to talk about is technology. How in the world of vast technology that we have today can we not put together a computer system that is simplistic, itemized, and has your patient's everything to a patient in a file in a way that can easily be read, shared? I remember it had to have been, what, 20 years ago they claimed that they were going to come out with the system to do that. Here we are decades later and it's never been done. Why? It is very simple. I mean, I don't know how to do it personally. I know how to build computers. I'm better at that than I am at using them because I enjoy that aspect more. I don't understand with the advanced technology we have, we cannot still today have anybody who can put together a system that can be shared and easily viewed and passed from doctor to doctor throughout the medical community. Why is that today still not even a priority? These people have insane money. They charge gazillions of dollars. And when I say insane money, the owner of Toledo Hospital, I know I was part of the building, my cousin was part of the building, has built $1 million mansions to bring people from his foreign land over here just to live in. He's got that kind of money. $1 million mansions, I kid you not, indoor swimming pools, 10-foot windows, 12-foot ceilings, mansions, just to bring people from his homeland to live here. I'm going to touch more on that in my very final of this because it's actually one of the most relevant that I've seen. So we have not, we've spent all this money in the medical industry. They've put it in their own pockets and the means of greed and not invested it into the medical community. We still are so far behind. I've already talked about it here in just my past couple of videos. A woman I talked to last week, 3 months later, her doctor still can't find the notes that she saw from her oncologist that she had seen, and she has cancer. But 3 months later, we finally get to see the doctor, and we still can't find any documentation on that. That is absolutely insanely ridiculous. It's that right there today is simple technology. Why isn't it being done? Well, they'd rather put the money in their own pockets and live like gods than take care of you. That's why they got into owning a hospital, right? Because they cared about you. It wasn't about you, it's about the money. That's what it's all about today. Everything's about the money. I wish money would just disappear. I would love to see the financial system shut down and people go back to basics and actually needing one another again. That's how I don't know how else we'd ever get back to being a community of togetherness again. So we don't have the resources that are being invested and the resources being available to our doctors. Right, there's one of the first steps. Another one, and this goes true in the entire every single industry in the world. 9 times out of 10, and this is not a joke, 9 times out of 10, every book smart person I have ever met is a complete failure in the real world. You want evidence of that? Have you ever driven behind somebody who drives a BMW or a Mercedes? They're so smart that they can make gazillions of dollars and afford that $100,000 car, but they don't know how to drive it. Driving is one of the most basic, simple things that an adult can do, but yet they can't. because they don't have, it's two totally different sides. It really is. 9 times out of 10, the people that I have met who do not have a college degree are actually in the real world. And when it comes to real circumstances, real life, real ability to think, the people who are not the book smart people are the ones who actually succeed far beyond the people who are book smart. It's not a joke. Part of the problems I have with schooling, you can read a book all day long, you can understand that book all day long, but you try to relate that to the real world, and most of the book smart people can't. They fail completely. So we filled a world full of, again, ideology. Yes, we need to be educated in what we do, but where does the education come from? A book or life? Part of why I'm here, I have more life experience than darn near anybody you'll ever meet. I've been out in the real world every day, learning, helping, seeing it. So I'm here to share my stories with you. So we filled the world full of book smart people in our medical industry and in all industries, expecting to make the real world a better place when these people in the book smart world are not able to put it into terms to the real world. I've seen it over and over. So then on top of that, we also have, and I've seen this firsthand many, many times. We've heard many, many, many stories about this in the world. It's, I mean, this isn't anything that people don't know. How many drug addicts do we have in the medical industry? I personally, firsthand, have known several. My dad's next door neighbor is, I mean, it's been over 10 years since I've talked to my dad. But when I did, his next door neighbor, her and I'd sit out and talk, and she'd tell me outright. She would screw up at work because she's going to work on cocaine, heroin, getting trashed. And then she gets caught and she laughs about this. Oh, when I get in trouble and I make a mistake, I just go pull urine from a bedpan of one of my patients and just pour it in a cup, and I pass my drug test. They can't catch me. She's not the first person I know, or the only person I know, that has told me that. Another woman that I knew, and this is the last time I ever talked to that woman, she called me up. She was a nurse in an elderly home. She was so drunk and high on cocaine at work that she couldn't stand up. I had to go sneak in the back door and carry her out because she couldn't even stand up at work. And she says the same thing. Yeah, when I screw up and things happen, I just take urine from a patient's bedpan and go pour it in a cup, and I pass my drug tests. These people got it all figured out. It's amazing. These people, these drug addicts and these criminals can figure out how to become criminals and get away with it, but they can't figure out how to do right in the real world and succeed righteously. When I had my surgery, I got out of surgery and I didn't even know that I was going to wake up like this with my intestines sticking out of my stomach. When I woke up from surgery, the nurse came in and said, "Jason, hi," and smacked me right and did one of the, oh, I did that on my shoulder, did one of the pats on me. How you doing? Oh, should have done that. And she did it right on my intestine that was sticking out of my stomach in an open hole. I jumped up. Ow! Oh, I'm sorry. I should have done that. You did just have that. Yeah, no kidding. You don't walk into any patient who's laying in a hospital bed after surgery and pat them on anything. That's just common sense and practice. But again, a book smart person doesn't have that. So then what does she do? She tries to take my catheter out, and she is pulling and tugging on this thing. I can't figure out why it won't come out. And then she goes, hee hee hee, and laughs. I forgot to unhook it. I hit the button. Another nurse comes in and she goes, "Wait, why are you hitting the button? There's a nurse in there." I said, "Get her out of my room. I don't want this woman in my room." Right there, within the first 2 minutes she was in my room, she has already failed twice. Get her out of my room, and I never want to see her in here again. And she didn't. They took her out. But yet that woman had a degree. She passed nursing school, did not have enough common sense, did not come in and pat a patient anywhere on their body who just got out of surgery, let alone directly on their open wound, or have enough common sense to unhook a catheter before they try pulling it out and sit there and tug on your wiener. Boy, that was so much enjoyment after all all that I went through here. I'm gonna sit here and tug and pull and pull and tug and tug and pull and scratch my head and then go back in there and tug and pull some more and then go, oops, I forgot to unhook it. I forgot to release the valve or whatever. But she passed school. She's a nurse. She's in our medical industry, hurting more people probably. So we had all that. Um, Another problem we have in our medical industry, we've eliminated pain medications for being okay for patients who need it because of drug addicts who are using it wrongfully. Because we care more about the drug addicts than we do about the good patients in our, and there's far more good patients suffering severely. I've talked about it repeatedly. I would smoke less. I would be more productive in life. I would have less depression, less pain, less all of it if they just give me the simple pain medications that I have a documented 14-year history of. This works. This makes this person a better person, more productive, healthier, all the way around, and not laying in pain and just miserable and just smoking because there's what the hell else can I do? I don't have my kids anymore to play with, so I just smoke. I sit here in complete misery. So now doctors also have to screw up their patients because they've hurt me more than they've helped me. Far more pain and suffering and permanent damage. I mean, there's undeniable. I have permanent damage from what doctors have done to me. Severe damage, but they're right and I'm wrong, right? Because they have a degree and a title. They make lots of money and I have none. That is the ideology I can't stand in this country. It's actually the people who don't have money. Part of the reason I don't have money is because I spent more of my time worrying about and taking care of other people than I have worried about taking care of myself and filling my bank account and living in greed. So now doctors have to try to figure out, how do we help patients when we've taken away medications that were helping patients? And then they're book smart, so they don't have to. We'll go back to the book and see, well, here, the book says try this. The book says try that. Well, do you not understand that the book is not always right? It's just like a reference. It's not a Bible. It's not an absolute. And the doctors can't think outside the box. It's just like calling a foreign customer service hotline number. Have you ever called a foreign customer service hotline number and made it anywhere? Made it anywhere. It's an absolute cyclic circle of chasing your tail, just like a dog. I recently had a phone call that I recorded. I might air it one of these days, but my friend came over that day, and then I said, "Man, you got to hear this." And I played it for him. He laughed and laughed and laughed. This woman could not understand when I tell her, cell phone company, somebody else had my phone number a long time ago, and it's in your system under that number. You have to look up my account by my account number, not the phone number, in order to access my account. Because if you put in the phone number, it'll pull up their account. I've already been through it dozens of times. Look at how much I've complained about the cell phone companies and how much time I've spent on the phone with them. She could not figure that out and refused to put in the account number. No, I can find it by your phone number. And then she pull up the account. Well, your name doesn't match the account. Ma'am, I just told you, you have to look it up by the account number, not the phone number. And she could not figure that out with me telling her that. Could not figure it out. I eventually hung up on her and called back and got somebody else. And this is the very final aspect I want to touch base on with this, is foreigners. We have filled our country full of foreigners. And now I am not a racist person by any means. I'm not a racist person. But truth and fact is fact. I mean, we can't change that. Foreigners do not have the same mentality we do. They don't have the same knowledge, the same mindset, because they have not grown in the world that we have. They have not had technology around them. They have not, they have been suppressed in so many ways themselves, like with our medical industry. Arabs have taken over our entire medical industry. Toledo and the whole surrounding area is owned by Arabs. Now, I will tell you, Arab women have been some of the sweetest, kindest, and I find them one of the most absolute beautiful women. I love their eyes and their hair and their skin color. I look at them and they just look like goddesses in my eyes. They're sweet, they're kind, they're caring, compassionate. From my experience, and I've met a lot. From extensive experience with Arab men, Arab men are arrogant pricks. They are selfish, greedy, money hungry, womanizing, selfish pricks. They are. I'm sorry. I've grown up with them my whole life, around them all over me. They are. That's just the way they are. It's the way they were raised. It's the mentality they were given. It's even right in their religion to kill Americans. But yet we put scalpels in their hands and let them operate on us. We put them in charge of our government, in charge of our states. This doesn't make any sense. It makes none. Those are some of the highest, most praised industries in our country. We need to take that serious, absolutely serious. And while they're just as low on the gene pool and all the way around for everybody, it doesn't matter what color your skin is. There's good and bad to everybody. But there is an absolute sway further and further on different spectrums for all of us because it's part of our history, it's our background, it's our raising, it's where we come from. And it's still the truth. The truth will always be the truth. If the owner of that hospital actually cared about American lives and the health and well being, owning a hospital while his patients suffer because we can't put together a financial, I mean, it takes money to do this stuff, right? And they want to claim they don't have the money and they're struggling even though they made gazillions of dollars off of COVID without having to do nothing. I mean, I might just do a whole nother video on that. And the person I know who was the head of the COVID hospital in Toledo, what a joke. Nobody got tested. You walked in there with a cough, sniffle, sneeze, burp, or fart. They just said you had COVID. And that's what went in the books, and they got paid for that and then sent you home unless you were dying. Unless you were respiratory failure, they sent you home and they got paid extra because you were a COVID patient, even though you may not have been. And then the whole entire um, data analysis on the whole entire COVID thing is all false completely. Not even all the way to the top of Fauci falsifying it, all the way down to our hospitals who said, yeah, we had 500 million people who got COVID when actually maybe only 200,000 of those people did, but we don't really know because we didn't test them. If they coughed, they sniffled, they burped, they sneezed, they fart, you got COVID. And that's what went into the history books. So how do we even know when they falsified the data undeniably and just through the roof? There's nothing we can even dictate off of that. We cannot put together any sort of scientific answer without proper data. That's exactly how it's done. But they have falsified it all, so we have no data to go off of. We really don't. These are all major problems in our medical industry. And here's one I'm going to touch on, and this is very rare, but I have personally seen it. And this is being a person that I am with the background I am that gets along with everybody, and everybody opens up and talks to me. I have met doctors and people who are in major control, women who are absolutely sexist against men. But for some reason, I'm one that they take in. I'm one that even abused women who are scared of men, they accept me. They will put their arms around me, hug me, and thank me for helping them. I'm that kind of guy. But I have met absolute, undeniable. They have come out and even told me outright women who hate men and they will just damn men because and hurt men just because they're men. Today that takes place far more than any white person wants to hurt any other minority. We don't want to hurt it. It's just the way our system has twisted it and I'm going to do a whole nother video just on that one alone because that's not hard to see either. You don't teach me that racism and sexism is wrong by treating me with racism and sexism, correct? That's not how we're supposed to. I mean, this is one of my mom's sayings that I was raised on and how many people were. Two wrongs don't make a right. None of this is any different. Two wrongs would never make a right. I guess it depends on how you want to look at it. When you go to war, you always have to do wrong to defend yourself. If it takes hurting another person, and we're not supposed to hurt another person, but we have to do that in defense, I guess you could look at that as wrong, right? I mean, that's kind of a gray area. So if you want to know why our medical industry is failing, right here is why. I will also tell you with my extensive background in the medical industry. Foreigners show up for work whenever they want. The top of the line doctors, specialists, even my son's cardiovascular specialist, who came out and said there's nothing wrong with him, even though they had to stop the testing and quit because he was in too much pain to continue. He's in too much pain to even finish the testing, but there's nothing wrong with him. And that's what went into the report, and that's what she told his mom. One, foreigners, communication. Communication is absolutely mandatory when it comes to severe health issues. And if you can't communicate, it don't matter how smart you are. If you cannot communicate properly, you should not be a doctor. Communication is absolute essential. You cannot say there, because we don't have parents today who can think for themselves and actually think, period. Instead, well, doctor said there's nothing wrong. Well, yeah, but your son was in so much pain that they had to stop the testing. You don't see that? No, his mom didn't. And still continued the same, everything that the doctor said caused his medical condition to his heart. Continued it. That's why we put women in control, right? Because they're the strong ones. And I'm not at all demeaning women by any means. It's just another ideology that's wrong. There's good in everything. Good men, good women. Bad men, bad women. We need to stop the ideology that just men are bad, women are good. White is bad and foreigners are good. That's not truth. There's good and bad to all of them. And we need to start putting them in their place. Not let them take control. That's exactly, I mean, who does that? Who does that? If you're in a marriage and one spouse spends money out the roof and the other one is in reserve with the finances, who do you put in charge? The person who blows all the money and can't pay the bills, or the person who lives in reserve and pays the bills? What's going to happen? Life is so simple, people. You've just filled your head full of entertainment. Don't have room and capacity for anything else. It's no different than drugs. It's no different than any other thing that brings our life down. It's good to be entertained. It's good to have an outlet. It's been overdone in this country. That's all people want anymore because our country sucks so bad. Nobody even wants to face any of it anymore. But yet it keeps cycling downward. When does the top pop? Do you want to know what's wrong with our medical industry? Right there's, and I'm sure, please comment if you know more. Share your stories. If you know more than what I've even said, please put it out there. But this is truly what I have seen through our medical industry and why it fails, why it is a complete failure. Big part of why our country is a complete failure too. So while I said there's a lot for me to talk about, and I made myself notes. My vision goes in and out. I couldn't read my notes while I was making that video. I could make out bits and pieces, words here and there, and that's usually how I read. Um, but there were some things that there's definitely a big thing I missed. Another problem we have in our medical industry is that, like everything else we've done to the entire world, we've poisoned it. We've poisoned our body with all the chemicals, all these drugs, everything that's in our food, all of it. We've changed the chemical makeup of our body. Now, while we had knowledge X amount of time ago that said this is the way the body worked, well, we're changing all that now. We're putting hormones in men, and we can't figure out why men want to become women because men aren't supposed to have hormones in their body. Women are not supposed to have additional or hormones added to their body. Why are our girls starting their periods at 8 years old now? Well, because you filled them full of hormones. They're not supposed to be. So how can doctors even take the technology and so much information and the knowledge that was gathered and gained so long ago that now is not as relevant as it was then, because now our chemical makeup has changed. Just like I talked about with my son's cardiovascular specialist. Part of the reason they can't find what's wrong with him is because they caused it. And what they caused, there's no, I don't even know that they even look into trying to research what they've caused, because then they'd have to admit they caused it, right? And there's a lot of reasons to that. But at the end of the day, they're still causing problems that now we don't know how to find and detect. I recorded that doctor telling me that. I'm the one who actually said it. She agreed with it. When she said there's nothing wrong with him, but yet in her report it states they had to stop the testing because he was in too much pain to continue. I asked her, I said, so what you're actually saying is, what this is all telling me is that you don't have the technology to detect and don't know what to look for to detect what's wrong with him. And she said, yes, that's right. Then why don't you just say that? There is something wrong, we don't know what. That is what the final report should have said, not there's nothing wrong. Again, proper communication. But we've, again, changed the chemical makeup of our body. We are creating new problems that we cannot detect and don't know what they are and don't even know what to look for. When you add chemicals together, they always create things that become an unknown. So when you add chemicals to an already chemical makeup of our body, nobody knows what all the outcome of that is. It takes decades. Look at Tylenol again. Decades it takes to figure out and even be able to relate the things that were causing these issues. GMO foods. Do people know GMO foods have killed tens of thousands of people? It's medically documented. One of the problems I have with schooling. My teenage stepdaughter came home one day and said, my teacher taught us today that GMO foods are good and healthy. One, why are you teaching that in school? That, to me, then sets up a red flag that you're putting out an agenda. You should not have to teach that. Two, why are you teaching my children that when it's wrong? GMO food is not healthy. The reason that the schools are pushing that and teaching that is because Bill Gates is paying them to do so. Do all the investigative research, people. It's out there. Bill Gates is paying the schools to endorse him and what his ideologies are. While he's poisoning countries, third world countries, do the research, people. Bill Gates is out poisoning third world countries right now, spraying all these toxic chemicals all over these countries that tribes of people live in. They're not cities, they're tribal people. But since they have no technology, they have no way to be heard, they have no way to speak out other than a random person who actually cares enough to go over there and talk to them. And people have. It's out there. So Bill Gates is poisoning these people as an experiment. That's guinea pigs. Again, we're guinea pigs. He does not look at people, as humans. He looks at us as a science experiment. Do the research, people. It's undeniable. I'm going to do another video. If you made $1,000,000, what's your first goal? Try to make two or be happy. It's a mental illness. Mental illness is what these people have, but they're looked at as gods because they have money and create all these problems in our lives, but people think it's so great because you get fed a disillusion of enjoyment out of it, right? So I want to add this into my video here. A real big problem with our medical industry is all of that. It's all of it. It's all money and greed. It's a huge, huge portion of it. And the people are causing the problems is a huge portion of it. And then we don't have technology to detect the problems that we are creating. It's all huge, huge, devastatingly huge in our medical industry. And we need to stop all that. I mean, I hope it can happen in a peaceful way, but I would really, really, really like to see a reset in this country happen. People go back to the basics, get rid of all this crap in our lives, and go back to people being people again. People who need one another and actually communicate with one another. Don't hide behind a screen and talk a bunch of crap, then kiss your ass right to your face. Met so many people like that. I would really, really like to see a reset take place in this country. I don't want to see it happen in a bad way. I don't know that it could happen in a good way, but we really need to make some major changes and go back to some very simple basics in life. Got too far away from it, and it's destroying our country.